Greetings, Israelite brothers and sisters, heirs, joint heirs, adopted, grafted, however we may come. You know, today that's going to be a part of the subject. Heirs, joint heirs, adopted into the sheepfold. I want to say happy Sabbath to all of you all, and I'm glad to be able to go and be with the assembly today. The scripture says, forsake not the assembling of ourselves together. And how you doing, Sister Quiana? Happy Sabbath. One of the things we should do is just wake up joyfully because it's the Sabbath. It's the Sabbath of the Lord. Everybody is not able to be together on the Sabbath. Everybody is not. Some people have to work. And we had a very good discussion last night in the Bible study. I wish we could have taken that subject longer because people were very interested in the Sabbath and dealing with the convictions of the Sabbath. And I think that's good because some people want to get off and you can't get off. And we had a lot of that discussion last night talking about, you know, if you're on the job and what's the best way to handle it. And that's, good morning, Miss B. And that's very important. How do you handle not being able to have the Sabbath off? And what do you do on the Sabbath? What is today about? Today is about assembly. It's a holy convocation. It's about getting together. It's about convening. And one of the things that we can't do is bear a burden on the Sabbath. How you doing, Brother Rodney? Brother Rodney, how you doing, my brother? So one of the things that we cannot do is bear a burden on the Sabbath. And so that was some good things that I was hearing out of the subject last night from all of you that was just had a lot of questions. It seemed like that was the theme. And we expanded from that and we got into other things, which is always good. But we were on that Sabbath and we went into one of our panel members, Brother Ronnie, brought up what is it that we can and cannot do on the Sabbath. And that was also a question floating in the room. So we went to Isaiah the 58th chapter. And in Isaiah the 58th chapter, now don't ever let the subject of the Sabbath feel like that it's an elementary subject, because not all of us have the same understanding and we all are searching for the Sabbath. And that's one thing unique about Bible study. We have people from different levels of understanding. And, so I thought that Brother Ronnie asked a very good question. How do we celebrate it? What is it that we can and cannot do? And then simultaneously, while he was asking that question, someone asked about having intimacy with your spouse on the Sabbath. And so we took them over to Isaiah the 58th chapter, and it says, not doing that on pleasure, not speaking that on words. So the Sabbath is one of those time periods where, good morning, Brother Tobiah. The Sabbath is one of those days that you just set apart, and it's sanctified, it's set apart, it's different. And being that it's different, there's certain things that we try to avoid from doing. I think Elder Robert Johnson brought out the fact that sometimes things do happen on the Sabbath. For instance, he brought up, you could be driving and you can get a flat tire. You could have a car problem. You could have, you can get a phone call from a family member that's in distress that may not observe the Sabbath. And so you may need to go and help someone. So that's what it's really about. After hearing the study last night, I've been doing the Sabbath wrong. I thought, this is Brother Rodney, I thought we could enjoy activities with the family along with spending time with the Most High. It feels like we can do nothing. Well, you can, for instance, um, you just have to look at the activities and what you do. And Brother Rodney, that's what's important. On Friday nights, it is a very good time to spend with family. It is. I think it is. What is it that you're doing? And let's talk about what they did in Israel. One thing that we did, this is an opportunity to teach children. This is an opportunity to make sure and hear from them, talk to them, find out what's on their minds and stuff like that. And it's okay to do that. You know, when I get home on the Sabbath from the service, like on today, when I get home, my daughter, whether she's riding in the car or when we get home, we engage in conversation. We talk about, you know, the day. We talk about the service. On Sunday, we may talk about her school. But what we need to do is make sure that we train our children that there's a difference, there's a distinction, there's a sanctification when it comes to this day. So don't look at it that you've been doing it wrong. Look at it that you're elevating and you're expanding. And it may not be something that you can do overnight. Just do your best in doing it to switch the conversation. You may have to sit down with family and spend time with family, and then you may have to sway the subject into a family that's spending time together, a family that's praying together. You know, tell your family how much you enjoy being with them. There's nothing wrong with that on the Sabbath. See, the scripture says it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. It is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. And so some people are like this. They're very rigid. I'm not a rigid person on the Sabbath. I'm not that type of rigid person. Because the Sabbath is supposed to be a joyful occasion. It really is. And when it's joyful, you can have fun with the family. You really can. And you know, even on the Sabbath, if my daughter does something funny, I will laugh about it, you know. So because you want the Sabbath to be a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's something that we enjoy. And family is very important. And I think the fact that you're spending time with family and you're taking time to sit down, whether it's at a table or whether it's after service, it will let your children remember, and they'll say like, man, I love the Sabbath because we always got together as a family and we sit down and we just had that bonding time. And that's what we do on the Sabbath. We have that bonding time to just really sit and spend that time together. And like I said, a lot of times we do it, we get out about 3:30. We get home, you know, after lunch, and we home. The sun's not down, but you know, we sit there and I don't have the Bible open. We just open the Bible. You know, we just came out of service, but we're sitting there and we're laughing, we're joking, and we're not engaging in a pleasure, but we're enjoying each other. We have a discussion about each other. We have a family discussion, and that's what it's good for. Sometimes we'll sit down and we'll say, you know, my daughter is very opinionated. She'll just say, well, Daddy, you know, can we do this, or can we she'll say, you know, in church, you know, I want to see this more, I want to see that more, and maybe next time can we do this or do that, and we discuss it and we have a good time. Sometimes we discuss funny things that may have happened in the service, or what I may have said, or something like that, because sometimes I say funny things, or I'll give a wrong scripture, or I might say Abraham parted the waters when it was Moses. And, you know, just sitting around the table, we have a family discussion about it. And my wife may say something like that, say something like, well, you know, honey, when you talk, maybe you should consider to slow down a little bit. Maybe you should know your thoughts. These are some suggestions. Now, we're not talking about the Bible. Now she's giving me aid about public speaking and stuff like that. So, you know, don't make it a burdensome. Just enjoy, you know. One of your children might say, hey, can I discuss what's been on my mind? You know, this happened and it bothered me, and I want to take time while we're here to discuss that, And I think that's good, because it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Nobody can, you know, try to put things around it. Now, one thing I won't do is I won't go watch a football game. I won't go to a game. Sabrina says we play biblical games some Friday night. Absolutely. I have some of those games. They're very fun, and it's family time. You can, some of those you can get. There's a website, but just the biblical games that you can get some. Some of your Bible bookstores have them, and they're like board games, but they're fun. Rodney says, my son is 17 and struggling with awakening. We've left the Christian church and the holidays, but he feels stressed to be perfect. We've always discussed the scriptures. The awakening is hard for him. Well, you know, Brother Rodney, and I think that I appreciate you sharing that with us. You know, having that discussion, but also it cannot be burdensome. It cannot be burdensome. It really can't. It has to be fun. Maybe you'll take the time to discuss some of the curses, some of the things that we've gone through as a people, and you may want to discuss with him, you know, what does he have planned in life? Because being awakened, you're coming up out of that. So take that time that family time, whether it's on the Sabbath, and say, listen, son, what do you have planned? You know, what is it that you want? What do you think that we could do better? You know, goals. What are your goals? Because like I said, it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath. So have those discussions. Sometimes it may not be biblical discussion. It could be what I call personal coach discussions. And that's good too, because the father of the house is to be uplifting. The mother's job is to be uplifting the family. And so sometimes it might be personal coaching time or family coaching time. And it's okay to do that, to make it fun. So Food Queen says, what I do, I tell my family I got one day with God. They understand it's just one day, so they plan this time without me and wait until it's over. It's good that you get that support from your family. Miss B says, I hear you, Brother Rodney. My 17-year-old son and husband go. Well, I think that's good, because we all share different experiences when it comes to that, because it is awakening. And I hear this a lot, and I think this is why this was a good subject last night, because so many of you have so many experiences that you can share when it comes to the Sabbath and what you do with it. Those of us that don't have the problem, maybe we can share with you how we overcame the problem. Miss B says basically it's a process. And you know what? That's what's so good about grace, is that things are a process. Here a little, there a little. Line upon line, precept upon precept. And I'll share this with you. When the apostles were discussing how to deal with the Gentiles, at what level do we receive them and not receive them, the Apostle James says, listen, one thing we do realize is that the law of Moses will be taught every Sabbath. Every Sabbath, the law of Moses will be taught, which means people grow. The very first thing that we have to learn to do is just give people Christ. Just give them Jesus. That's the first thing. You know, we cannot leave what we need to do first. Give them that. And then after they get that, then we must sell. So coming out of a Christian church, some of your loved ones and family members, they know about Christ. So you need to help them get to a different level. You need to help them grow into other things and having those discussions and having those family study times. Now, I love family study times. They're very good. Tobias says, is Biblical Tea going to be okay? Oh, yes. Yes, she's fine. She's fine. You know, you have to understand, when I do a Q&A like that, we do have discussions and we don't always agree. My brother and I, he and I prefer to have them offline, and he'll call me up if there's something I said that he didn't agree with. And some people like to discuss it right there and then. I respect either way, but I tell you what it did do, it made me get into studying the Feast of Dedication. And I was up to about 4 o'clock in the morning because it's not something, as I always tell people, if I'm not informed about it, I don't like touching it. I don't like touching it at all. But I was up to 4 o'clock in the morning looking at the subject because I wanted to get more information on it. Because if someone said something about the day and I can't confirm it, I need to either confirm it or deny it. So I did a lot of studying on it, but it requires 32 hours of study. Now, y'all remember, any subject takes 32 hours of study. I only did probably last. So that's what's important. I don't study, when I study a particular subject, I put a lot of time in it, because the next time I discuss it, once I put my mind on it, once I discuss it, I'm going to take you to book, chapter, verse, encyclopedia, page number, and everything. That's what I do. But if I don't know it, I really don't prefer to discuss it. Or we can, but I'll just say, I don't know. I'm not that well versed at all. Somebody asked me the other day, I was speaking to Divine Prospect. Some of you all know him. And Brother Divine Prospect was telling me, he says, Pastor Johnson, I've been listening to you, and you know those feast days. You know them. And I think that you have a lot to offer to the community. He wanted me to come to Texas in July because there is a panel of invited guests. There's going to be a forum just to discuss the feast days, what day are the feast days, what do they mean, and that stuff. Because he says a lot of people are doing it, but he didn't think a lot of people know what they mean. So I was honored, number one, that he had peeked in to check it out, but I was also intrigued with the fact that they said come. Now that's my specialty. That's where I'm at, because it's the plan to salvation. So what I'm basically saying is that the Feast of Dedication, because it's not something that's in the law of God, I don't know much about. So I think that Sister Tia said, oh, she's here with us. She's here with us. I just saw her now. How you doing, Sister T? She says that she's done a lot of studying on it. I just haven't. So I'm not well versed in it. I will be. You give me about another week or two, I'm going to be good on it. And I'll be able to share with you if it's a day that we should or should not keep. But I would say this, just remember this. Any day that you keep that is not pagan oriented is okay. For instance, the 4th of July is the independence of this country. If you choose to do it, there's no pagan worshiping behind it. You may not like America, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. I don't get into the patriotic type thing. I don't get into it. I don't hang up the flag. But let me tell you, I'm the first to pull out a grill and get the family together because it's a day off. But I will also say, like some people say, well, is it okay to celebrate an anniversary? Is there anything pagan behind celebrating your wedding anniversary? Not that I've read. Not that I've read. I haven't read anything about that. Somebody may make a connection, and then you have to look at that person's point of view in their argument or their presentation to say we should do it because this is what the Greek gods did. Then you can make a decision. Am I doing it based upon that, or am I doing it because it's my spouse and I's anniversary? I don't know. So you have to make that decision. Rodney says U.S. was founded on theft and murder. It's also my son's birthday. So celebrate your son's birthday. But somebody asked me about Mother's Day. And they showed me something that was linked to Mother's Day, although when I did my research on Mother's Day, it was instituted by one of our presidents as a day to recognize mothers. Now, this is the same president that brought in welfare. So it has done a lot damage. It has been good. And then some people say, well, it goes back deeper than that. And it may. But I have to look at it from why are we doing it? Now, if we start to call something the name, we have to be careful of the name that something has behind it. There's so much that you have to look into that you're really just best off looking forward to the feast of the Lord. That's just what I tell people. My wife and I decided we don't do Valentine's Day. I love you every day. You don't have to bring me flowers. And I used to. Yeah, if you talked to me 5 years ago, I didn't miss a Valentine's Day because I did not make the connection or look at it, or I did not look deep into it as the Cupid. I should have. I really should have. I just didn't. But, this is the levels that we grow. Once I saw it, I don't push it on people. If people ask, like if I'm in the congregation, I'll teach it. I'll say, hey, this is something that we have to be careful of. This is something that we watch out for because that little guy, this is what he really means. And so when my wife and I looked at it, we said, we're not doing that no more. We're not going to celebrate that. So look at things, but you can never go wrong with just observing the feast of the Lord. So tune in today at 1 o'clock. If you're not doing anything, always get together with family and come and just join in with us and do that. So Biblical Tea, Tobiah, Soul Food, Miss B, Rodney, Tobiah, Sabrina, I'm missing Chicago already. I am. Peace and blessings to all of you all. Happy Sabbath, and you all do well. Canson, how you doing? James J. Grant, how you doing? I don't want them feeling trapped. And okay, how you doing, Jay? Very good question. I'm going to answer Jay's question because it's a very question. He says, I'm 25 in the military for 6 years now. Only time I have off is weekend. Once I started a family, how do I continue the Sabbath, even when I have kids? Well, I think that somebody made some recommendations if you're not around a place where you can go observe the Sabbath. Sit down with the kids, do some biblical board games, do some stuff like that, and make the Sabbath an event with your family. Sit down, pray. Pray is always good. Teaching your kids, reading them a Bible story. You're spending time with them. Even if you can do it just a few hours as you are getting more acclimated and getting your family acclimated. Try it. It's very